as they were 2 moons. Never man saw the like of them for beauty and grace. The elder called Shams al-Din Mohammed, and the younger Nur al-Din Ali. But the younger excelled the elder in seemliness and pleasing semblance, so that folk heard his fame in far countries, and men flocked to Egypt for the purpose of seeing him. In course of time their father, the wazir, died and was deeply regretted and mourned by the sultan, who sent for his 2 sons, and, investing them with dresses of honor, said to them, "Let not your hearts be troubled, for ye shall stand in your father's stead and be joint ministers of Egypt." At this they rejoiced and kissed the ground before him and performed the ceremonial mourning for their father during a full month, after which time they entered upon the wazirate, and the power passed into their hands as it had been in the hands of their father, each doing duty for a week at a time. They lived under the same roof, and their word was one, and whenever the sultan desired to travel, they took it by turns to be in attendance on him. It fortuned one night that the sultan proposed setting out on a journey next morning, and the elder, whose turn it was to accompany him, was sitting conversing with his brother, and said to him, "O my brother, it is my wish that we both marry, I and thou 2 sisters, and go in to our wives on one and the same night. Do, O my brother, as thou desirest," the younger replied, "for right is thy recking, and surely I will comply with thee in whatso thou sayest." So they agreed upon this, and quoth Shams al-Din, "If Allah decree that we marry 2 damsels, and go into them on the same night, and they shall conceive on their bride nights and bear children to us on the same day, and by Allah's will thy wife bear thee a son, and my wife bear me a daughter, let us wed them either to other, for they will be cousins." Quoth Nur al-Din, "O my brother Shams al-Din, what dower wilt thou require from my son for thy daughter?" Quoth Shams al-Din, "I will take 3,000 dinars and 3 pleasure gardens and 3 farms, and it would not be seemly that the youth make contract for less than this." When Nur al-Din heard such demand, he said, "What manner of dower is this thou wouldest impose upon my son? Wottest thou not that we are brothers, and both by Allah's grace wazirs and equal in office? It behoveth thee to offer thy daughter to my son without marriage settlement, or if one need be, it should represent a mere nominal value by way of show to the world. For thou knowest that the masculine is worthier than the feminine, and my son is a male, and our memory will be preserved by him, not by thy daughter." "But what," said Shams al-Din, "is she to have?" And Nur al-Din continued, "Through her we shall not be remembered among the emirs of the earth. But I see thou wouldest do with me according to the saying, and thou wouldest bluff off a buyer, ask him my price and higher, and as did a man who, they say, went to a friend and asked something of him, being in necessity, and was darkest would come tomorrow. Whereupon the other replied in this verse, When he who is asked a favor saith tomorrow, the wise man wants to Spain to beg or borrow. Quoth Shams al-Din, Basta, I see thee fail in respect to me by making thy son of more account than my daughter. And 'tis plain that thine understanding is of the meanest, and that thou lackest manners. Thou remindest me of thy partnership in the Wazirate, when I admitted thee to share with me only in pity for thee, and not wishing to mortify thee, and that thou mightest help me as a manner of assistant. But since thou talkest on the wise, by Allah, I will never marry my daughter to thy son, no, not for her weight in gold. When Nur al-Din heard his brother's words, he waxed wroth and said, And I too, I will never, never marry my son to thy daughter, no, not to keep from my lips the cup of death. Shams al-Din replied, I would not accept him as a husband for her, and he is not worth a paring of her nail. Were I not about to travel, I would make an example of thee. However, when I return, thou shalt see, and I will show thee how I can assert my dignity and vindicate my honor. By Allah doeth whatso he willeth. When Nur al-Din heard this speech from his brother, he was filled with fury and lost his wits for rage. But he hid what he felt and held his peace, and each of the brothers passed the night in a place far apart, wild with wrath against the other. As soon as morning dawned, the Sultan fared forth, and crossed over, and made for the pyramids, accompanied by the Wazir Shams al-Din, whose turn of duty it was, whilst his brother Nur al-Din, who passed the night in sore rage, rose with the light and prayed the dawn prayer. Then he betook himself to his treasury, and taking a small pair of saddlebags, filled them with gold. And he called to mind his brother's threats and the contempt wherewith he had treated him, and he repeated these couplets, Travel, and thou shalt find new friends, for old ones left behind. Toil, for the sweets of human life by toil and moil are found. This day at home no honor wins, nor aught attains but want. So leave thy place of birth and wander all the world around. I've seen, and very oft I've seen, how standing water stinks, and only flowing sweetens it, and trotting makes it sound. And where the moon forever full, and never to wax or wane, man would not strain his watchful eyes to see its gladsome round. Except the lion leave his hair, he never would fell his game. Except the arrow leave the bow, never had it reached its bound. Gold dust is dust, the while it lies untraveled in the mine, and aloes wood, mere fuel, is upon its native ground. And gold shall win his highest worth when from his coal ungold. And aloes sent of foreign parts grows costlier than gold. When he ended his verse, he bade one of his pages saddle him his Nubian mare mule with her padded sow. Now she was a dapple gray, with ears like reed pins and legs like columns, and a back high and strong as a dome, builded on pillars. Her saddle was of gold cloth, and her stirrups of Indian steel, and her housing of velvet. She had trappings which would serve, and she was like a bride adorned for her wedding night. Moreover, he bade lay on her back a piece of silk for a seat, and a prayer carpet under which were his saddlebags. When this was done, he said to his pages I shall lie 3 nights abroad. So let none of you follow me, for there is something straiteneth my breast. Then he mounted the mule in haste, and taking with him some provaunt for the way, set out and faced the open and uncultivated country lying around it. About noontide he entered the city, where he dismounted and stayed a while to rest himself and his mule, and ate some. He bought, at bill pays, all he wanted for himself, and foraged for his mule, and then fared on the way of the waste. Towards nightfall he entered a town, where he alighted, and took out somewhat of his food, and ate. Then he spread his strip of silk on the sand, and set the saddlebags under his head, and slept in the open air, for he was still overcome with anger. When morning dawned, he mounted and rode onward till he reached the holy city, Jerusalem, where he dismounted at one of the caravans, and abode 3 days to rest himself and the mule, and to smell the air. Then, being determined to travel afar, and Allah having written safety in his fate, he set out again, wending without wanting whither he was going. And having fallen in with certain couriers, he stinted not traveling till he had reached Basra city, albeit he knew not what the place was. It was dark night when he alighted at the khan, so he spread out his prayer carpet, and took down the saddlebags from the back of the mule, and gave her with her furniture, in charge of the doorkeeper, that he might walk her about. The man took her, and did as he was bid. Now it so happened that the Wazir of Basra, a man shot in years, was sitting at the lattice window of his palace opposite the khan, and he saw the porter walking the mule up and down. He was struck by her trappings of price, and thought her a nice beast fit for the riding of wazirs, or even of royalties. And the more he looked, the more was he perplexed, till at last he said to one of his pages, "Bring hither yon doorkeeper." The page went and returned to the wazir with the porter, who kissed the ground between his hands, and the minister asked him, "Who is the owner of yonder mule, and what manner of man is he?" And he answered, "O my lord, the owner of this mule is a comely young man of pleasant manners, withal grave and dignified, and doubtless one of the sons of the merchants." When the wazir heard the doorkeeper's words, he arose forthright, and mounting his horse, rode to the khan, and went in to Nur al-Din, who, seeing the minister making towards him, rose to his feet, and advanced to meet him, and saluted him. The wazir welcomed him to Basra, and dismounting, embraced him, and made him sit down by his side, and said, "O my son, whence comest thou, and what dost thou seek?" "O my lord," Nur al-Din replied, "I have come from a city of which my father was wazir, but he hath been removed to the grace of Allah." And he informed him of all that had befallen him from beginning to end, adding, "I am resolved never to return home before I have seen all the cities and countries of the world." When the wazir heard this, he said to him, "O my son, hearken not to the voice of passion, lest it cast thee into the pit. For indeed many regions be waste places, and I fear for thee the turns of time." Then he let load the saddlebags and the silk and prayer carpets on the mule, and carried Nur al-Din to his own house, where he lodged him in a pleasant place, and entreated him honorably, and made much of him, for he inclined to love him with exceeding love. After a while he said to him, "O my son, here am I, left a man in substance.